Happy Halloween and preparedness for you. So, this is the gruesome and extreme display of the Vampire King using his XR tabletop equipment. So, here's the little frown, and here's the Vampire King. And what he's doing, he's performing on this sort of lamb character. It's got like an eye here and an eye there. And what he's actually doing is transitioning sort of the unicorn's horn of this animal, and you can see like his little limbs with his little hoofs kind of spread apart here, and it's kind of gruesome, but the Vampire King is performing. This is the image that I had mentioned in the previous recording about, yeah, there's a cool image of the Vampire King working on that Angel Assembler game on XR, and the boys are watching it, and they're like, oh no, oh look at that. But so what's happening here is, he's using his hands and orchestrating a sort of anatomical rearranging, assembling, and sometimes even dissecting. You can see like he pulls apart because he feels like, oh, that's not really grafting properly, so he just rips it apart, and they're like, oh no. But it's all animated in sync to have this sort of, so you're seeing this like life form sim you know on the XD. Well, it's in South Park animation, so that kind of glosses over the whole issue about like what beta formats are we operating on. So I wanted to share this image with you guys because I had mentioned it, and I kind of wanted to retell part of the story because I wanted to stress that the idea in the haunted house visit is what we're going to do is perform it inside of VR or in the landscape. So we're actually going to try to make it like a little bit scary. And I love the presentation and the nobility as represented in Millie and Pan, these characters who are obviously regal and of the forest, but they have these huge, white fur, um, uh, sort of like the throne that they carry around with them. And Master Source has one as well. But then these masks is sort of like, this is what we show to you, but then when they comprise together, you can see the Green Wolf. And part of it is the Green Wolf robot, and part of it is the Green Wolf, the actual presidential candidate. And so again, there's these little characters here sort of peeking out through the wall. And we venture through a strange underbrush, like glass, greens and blues. And this is defiant to the foliage colors of the negative spectrum, yellow, orange, and red. We're going into a VR Halloween haunted house. And so there's sort of these, purple and green and blues, where it's the, upper spectrum of colors. So it's a different imagination about Halloween, but I wanted to get it to a place where we're talking about space, because when you do go into, so these are the South Park characters here on this ridge, and they found their way through that strange forest, and they come out into this new landscape, and it's just this huge valley, and they just can't believe the size of it. But it's all inside of the Green Wolf robot's mind, because they're venturing into the space where the Green Wolf robot is trying to be activated by the appropriate synapse or reason, which causes this awakening recognition with reality event. Because the Green Wolf robot is designed to be a little bit psychic, so it's waiting for this precise thing that triggers it and allows it to perform its perfect action of destroying the world zombie as embodied in the Trash Island. So anyway, Because we're going into VR, we still want to talk about a haunted house and a Halloween special, but we have all this space to work with, and it's wonderful to think that, in South Park Great Animation, we could have this sort of see how wonderful this cliffside is, and these are very basic colors, but a fantastic breath and a different feeling of space. So it is really, a guest director, a guest art director for this episode is, hiring Pan for this episode of Halloween. I wanted to stress again, I love these little characters, how their hooves kind of go tippy tippy tap. It's totally South Park animation grade, but it's a really good way of using the cutout style. The South Park animation lends itself to this type of character where there's like a herd of these weird characters, and they're just like, you know, they don't get mentioned again, but a wonderful opportunity to animate and present these sort of um, these sorts of extra characters that are just part of the story. But it sort of helps to have like a fond, like osmosis. Like there's more to this story than it feels like, and so it's like a very pleasant episode to watch, and also pleasant to rewatch because it's like, oh, I get to see that time when there was this little Lammy and he winked at me, and it was really cool. And this sort of like little giggle memory, um, as far as the perfect South Park episode, is what we're building on, and we're only, growing stronger. So even if like previous forms of our agreement about working together, even if this is the skull of that agreement, if we have, if Trey and Pan have died as a, constructive or creative collaborative, we have to keep working from like the Phoenix egg and be like, okay, what was good about this stuff, and then sort of let's just figure out how we can work with this and make it work. So going from that point, I'm not working on any assumptions about where this project is at, or what the plan is on your side. I mean, like, I know what I'm doing. But anyway, these characters are actually uh, really important because they perfect the animation style. I mean, they're so simple. Then you have the snow bleeding in here, and these different colors and places that we go to. Now, this is obviously a shocking and new graphic, and I think that, Trey, you're seeing all kinds of landscapes and stuff in that, and I don't want to interfere with that. What I see in it, I do see mountains and all this quite vividly, but I see this like really charming animal here. There's a big eye, and it's almost like part of the soul of the Green Wolf robot. And there's a moment when this character and the South Park characters are like standing right here, and he's just like looking down at them and blinking his massive eyes, and Randy like goes, oh, but then he has a chance to say something, and it's amusing. So there's like a joke there, and then this character sort of bounces back into the forest, and we kind of make progress till we get into the arena where there's some like water, and it's in a cave, and we see this sort of hovering ship on the light, on the surface, and it sort of starts over here, and it's zipping along, and like all of that takes like 3 seconds. So visually we understand, and then Millie's on there doing her thing, and she's updating, uploading, and trying to maximize the brain function of this VR hologram map that they're really exploring. So then there's a part where they finally do meet Millie, and she's sort of lounging there, and she appears as like this giant blue animal, like some sort of like an Arctic fox. But she's sort of just playing around, and she's talking about, I mean, visually what I'm talking about is processed food, is about how to make food from, vegetable pulp, and it doesn't have to be like imitation meat. Anyway, this thing comes around and produces this bubble, which Randy then eats, and he has some sort of joke that he says about that. And so finally, this is for like the real life. This is one of my favorite. This is Millie, the South Park goddess, and she's talking. She's here to represent psychically. She's saying like, I'm representing a valid concept for Trey Parker. This is a fork in the road where you can change the destiny of all men if you would just be brave enough to do something advanced with an important artist. Pan is a visionary for this generation, and to allow him free speech is the right thing to do. Produce his work, pay it forward, and produce the Green Wolf. And there are things that Pan of the Wild can't say directly, because of professionality. And so he is the lone wolf. Pan is the lone wolf, so you guys need to have the introspect where you're considering the entire picture, and with your entire understanding about when's appropriate to rebel and when is appropriate to sit on your hands. And you need to choose wisely. So this is Millie living in the attic of the water wheel mill. And she's a real potential goddess of South Park. And, we're on the fate line of existing or not existing, and I'm here to represent our hope and our light for the Halloween special. And there's no sticking point, like we can change major things about this episode, but the love of this house with Millie and the Halloween twins and the Green Wolf robot is real, and that's something that's worth presenting and producing. And the Green Wolf toy is also a really perfect idea. And if you guys, you need to introspect on yourself, because if you're not reacting to perfect genius ideas, then you're also like an enemy of common sense. You're not doing things that even make sense anymore. So I'm talking about, so there'll be this moment when maybe Stan confronts the charger about how to turn on. It's like on the second floor of the water wheel mill is where the Green Wolf robot is. And there's like a station where you, like a CAT scan, you punch in it and you're trying to make the spark plug to turn on and awaken it. So I'm thinking like, it doesn't have to be Greta. It could be Stan. And I'm totally convinced that that would be the perfect Halloween episode. So let's just go there and imagine that we're not going to have Greta in it, but we're going to do something adult. Just hypothetically, you guys, all right? Would you just meditate with me? Put on your thinking caps, because it's also important to allow Greta and the Friday Kids to have their own voice, but then us as adults be like, oh yeah, we want to do something, here's something environmental. So we're not like crutching along on Greta or cramping her style, because she's working hard to be taken seriously and stuff. So she's totally winning in that battle, and we'll catch up with her. We're in the same world. So let's do our best, Anyway, so imagine this. Most of the characters are going through this haunted house experience with Millie in the attic in VR. They're all zonked out in VR, but the visuals, we're all watching the characters go through what is essentially a haunted house. And so we can, it opens up the narrative. We could have any sorts of creatures. And, I've just been giving these examples to help us. Oh, like a giant cat character zoops in and frightens, someone falls there, oh, and then, an opportunity for a joke. But it's just a wonderful and open world to consider. And then we glimpse the future is powerful and new. So anyway, like I was thinking, okay, what about a narrative turn where basically most of the characters get caught up in the VR world, and they're basically pursuing Millie in the attic, who's kind of acting like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, or even like what's the word, like a tour guide. Like she's taking people around, but they kind of get like, oh, they get like scared and stuff. Anyway, so while they're inside of this higher VR world, they have a glimpse of what Millie is talking about, And they catch up with Millie, and Millie explains inside of VR, okay, basically we're trying to awaken this entire brain. So they see the whole landscape, and they're like, oh, we're trying to awaken the green wolf. But downstairs, actually, Stan goes in, and he goes into the compiler without them really knowing, but it's okay, like, because he knows it's that, like, any kind of cure Spud is invited by Pan. He's like, yeah, anything that. So it's cool, but he kind of wanders off into it, and while everyone's basically up there looking at the robot brain inside of VR, suddenly Stan is like getting really pissed off about being stuck in Integrity Farms, and he's angry at his dad, and as all this stuff comes out, he goes, yeah, and all this lightning bolt comes out. Suddenly the green wolf gets the final enzyme, and everyone up here in VR is watching, and they see the entire brain of the VR wolf awaken, and then in real life we see the green wolf robot and its eyes slowly open up. Oh my gosh, we can't believe it. And it's a beautiful spectacle and a wonderful animation where, so this is like this beautiful heartstone created by the Green Wolf robot, and we're seeing it awaken right in front of our very eyes. And it is the holiday special for South Park. And so I'm saying, what about a narrative path that doesn't have Greta in it, but turns Stan into the hero only for the purpose, like, not because I think that Trey would like it to be that way, but because it works with South Park mechanics. Like, I'm saying, like, this episode is already very spicy. The adding of a director with Pan, the Green Wolf robot, all these new ingredients. Greta might actually, like, make it weird. But what if we want to anchor it with, like, a Hearthstone, I'd say make it Stan. And I mean, remember the Stan doll with the hell written on its belly? Goth Stan with the hell. Do you still have that, Trey? So I'm trying to relate to you about transforming America, all right? So this is what we're talking about. Tune in. And so, like, I recognize Stan as, like, a very important, pivotal character, and I want to put that on a center because I'm a visiting director and author. Like, sometimes it's difficult for good scenarios to be written in South Park because Trey is sort of selfless in a way, and he doesn't think about showcasing how beautiful his characters are because, you know, he's objective. Like, I'm you know, a different perspective, and so I'm saying, let's make this a vignette about the heart glow of South Park characters and make it into a Halloween special. It could even be a half hour long. I could still pull it off. But I want to just say, you know, you can see the beauty. So this is sort of like the timeline. This is like a phantom timeline that is going in, and the green wolf is eating it. And this is how he detects the future. And so we're actually performing the advanced magic, which is the quantum physics that occurs when people watch this Halloween episode. So I'm trying to get you interested, Trey Parker, but I only use divine mechanics, but that makes it just even more difficult and tricky. All right. So here's a complicated image where Millie, in her armor, is pressing forth and controlling some strands of the quantum space inside of the VR world. And she's, like, time arcing over between two different worlds where our family gets to exist as these awesome visiting characters inside of South Park or not. And it is a devastation to our world. And so she's piercing through this painted veil and working hard to relate to you in your situation. And so find the inspiration that is the Halloween twins and the love of the Green Wolf robot. And you can see just the flicker in the eyes as we use our unicorn horn magic to communicate how much we love you, Trey Parker, and how much we want to work with Matt Stone and all of you guys and have a wonderful Halloween special. It's good, and it causes just the quakes and the shock waves of love for everyone who watches it. We're all, working as a family to pull it together and make good things happen. And the best way to do that is to plant those seeds of true love and invest in the future. And that's what we're doing here. And so this is a sort of vortex of an epiphany in the episode. And you could imagine, like, there's a lot of South Park characters here, and they're seeing like this whole new landscape, and it's opening like the first dawn of hope. It's the candidacy of the green wolf as it cascades and touches the hearts of all Americans. And it is the beautiful future. It is the brighter future caused by our perfect communication, our love for each other, and our love for America. And so this is a possible set location, and I would have Trey, write some dialogue for what is going on here and what is the transition here. And here's an image that I am going to direct what's going on here. So you can see right here, there's like an open mouth of a South Park character. This is clearly the mustache of Randy. And so what I'm seeing here is like this is a Randy Marsh head, and his face gets ripped off right here. And here's his mustache in his mouth. He's going, ah! And he's screaming. He's very painful because he's getting distorted between quantum worlds of the painted and the future of virtual reality, and the distortion pedal of Americana. And so you can clearly see the tormented face of Randy Marsh right here as it's being torn off of his face inside of VR, and revealed the bare naked titties of Randy Marsh, which are never supposed to be viewed by the public. And the terrible, but awesome truth of the like bare bones anatomy of Randy Marsh as distorted by this computer. Yeah. I just, it started to make me laugh thinking about Randy's identity being torn apart by this machine that he's meditating with. Anyway, so here, this is a picture that is Millie wearing a parka, or she's got her boa on right here. Okay, so this is her fluffy thing, and this is her eyes, and this is her other eye, and this is her big South Park head. And so this is after the Green Wolf was awoken by Stan, and like Stan's inner like anger at his dad and stuff, and it's sort of like this awesome moment where he awakens the robot with his rage. And so it puts Stan in the middle of that episode. I think that's really going to make it light up. That's like the magic hat that makes the snowman awaken. It's like it's the perfect bullseye, right? So just brew on that, Trey Parker. And so this is Millie, like so we're outside of the water wheel mill, because there's a huge hole in the side of the water wheel mill because the green wolf robot blasted out, and all the characters are on the front yard, and finally Millie steps out, and Randy's goes, oh hi Millie, because like after all that weird adventure, finally they meet face to face, and she's like, oh, so the green, or something about I remember what it was, is that she's like immediately like, oh, I strapped a GoPro on the Green Wolf robot, we can track its move. Oh, okay. And they run back in to watch the monitor, and they're watching the adventure. So like right after it explodes out, there's this moment where they're all in the front yard going like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then Millie is out there, and Randy's like, oh, hi Millie. And she says, oh, we can track his movement on the monitor inside. And they go, oh, okay. And they all run back inside. And then we cut back to the running wolf, and he's rampaging towards the trash island. And so in the hustle and bustle, it's sort of that in this amazing event, Stan's achievement is really perfectly embraced and warmly embraced by these scientists. It's no longer this narrative where Stan activates the robot and everyone goes and yells at him, what did you do? Did you, all this bullshit in the narrative. But instead, we like embrace So like Pan and Millie are like, "Good job, Stan. You did it. Good job to awaken the Green Wolf. Let's watch on the monitor." And they're all watching and they're all hoping about, defeating the evil of this world. So it's a very hopeful episode, and it's very happy reconciliation for Integrity Farms, and it's a good moment when uh, uh, you know. So anyway, here's it's a good moment when Randy gets to grow as a person from his experience in VR, but he gets to watch and see the entire labyrinth of the things that they had been watching. It all awakens when Stan becomes the big hero. And this is not, um, and there's also the part where the boys are showing the game board design that Trey Parker invented. So that's in there. Anyway, here's an image of Millie sort of turning and seeing Randy for the first time. And Randy says, "Oh, hi, Millie." And Randy says, "Oh, we have a monitor inside. Come on, come on, come on." And they rush back inside. So this is the last slide of my presentation. Let's see if this works. All right, you guys. I love you so much. That was really a heartfelt sequence of the story, taking it in a different way. I feel this like it's really quite a complicated landscape when you have Greta involved, and it's like and maybe Trey might even say, okay, there are some like I'm not comfortable with an hour-long episode. Could we make it a half hour? I'd be like, oh yeah. But what about bringing it into like Stan's the hero, and that doesn't rule out the game display that Trey would have to invent. And we're talking about like a social commentary, and the humor is double thick because Trey gets a chance to talk to the gaming community and say, "Hey guys, hey, you know about gaming and this, and like, oh, about this, and he gets a chance to tell a joke about the gaming industry and everything in a whole new way. It's completely constructive, makes the future brighter, and it excites people. The imagination goes way up. Okay, so this episode that I want to guest direct, I'm applying to South Park Studios. Please, fly me out first class. For directing this Halloween episode for South Park. And that would give us all a chance to become friends on a new level, and then whoosh, take a breath and even, step back from this whole where building thing. But honestly, that's where I'm headed, and I know that it's important. I've ruminated on it, I've meditated on it. Just the thought of me like having a lesser budget, or even if I was to take out a house loan and try to do this thing on my own, it's still just like awful, and it's not appropriate for the size of the people's need. Okay, they need a hero at this time. They need an idol. They need someone that they can work with. The sign in the protests and the sharp contrast between what's going on in the government. It's a heartbreak, you guys. We need to be the spark and the communication light. We need to be the good wizards who do the right stuff and do the things for the right reasons, the heartfelt thing. Okay, so I'm cool with rearranging things about this episode. I just want to talk about it, and I wanted to present those new landscape images, like, because I've just been really grateful to present to you. And when I saw these images, I was like, oh, it's just like, oh, drinking from the well of immortal youth. It was like so good, so tasty to see those images and be like, oh, wow, these are full landscapes. You can see it. Oh, there's so much going on there. Wow. And it's real. I mean, that's real. So I'm just really glad I was able to show you those pictures. And there's some pictures of Millie just waving. I was just like, I'm in love with my wife. I'm just a really good part of my life, and I'm excited to be campaigning. And if I have the overhead, I could absolutely win this election and be a big hero for everyone in the world, really. And so, it really is about friendship and, us working together as friends to make something amazing and magical happen. And that's what defeats the bad guys. That's what defeats the money monsters. You know what I'm saying? It's to believe in love and life and freedom of America, freedom of speech and the way we have it. Like I'm talking about, like, we don't need to break any of our existing rules to do what I'm talking about doing. And I see solutions. Boom, boom, I have all these solutions for this stuff. I just need a little bit of overhead so that people understand that this kind of interaction is going to continue, that this isn't like some sort of, you know, internet, you know, video made by one person. Oh, he has a production team. He had, we're gonna keep hearing from this person. You can tell because of the overhead, because of how well it's produced. You can tell that it's, and that's respectful. Um, but I'm determined to keep running, and I will be doing my best to reach the people. And so I'm kind of in that way. But right now it's kind of like it's October. I feel like this is crunch time. This is when I need to talk to Trey Parker about this special and get the heart spark and get us motivated about doing that, because that is the highest level for me, is to produce this episode. And while we're working on this episode, then that's when we talk about the toy, because the toy is like, but in the mind of things, but the toy is really quite important to understand the whole lift of why this would be amazing for people. It really is just that the eyes light up and it howls, but when it activates, that's sort of the iconic, like, event of the toy. But there's something else we could kind of help it to be a continuing friend of the collector's shelf. When he's got all these different things, it'd just be nice to have a wolf with light up green eyes. I've defeated all of your problems, boom, officially. That's what he brings. He's this type of, and it's actually built by the people watching the Halloween episode. It's very cool. It's very like, this is what we've been building up. This is, and it's like taking an ice core sample of a timeline, like of 2019, but in the terms of eternity, and like, oh, what, a million years from now you come back and you're like, oh, this was actually a very courageous communication. So but I mean, the entire, the ice core sampling idea is really about the product of America as it is today. So like, people being excited, oh yeah, South Park Halloween episode, cool, and they're all psyched to see it, and they all tune in together. Surprise, it's a birthday party, like, ooh, and we actually give them some kind of cool stuff, like there's this funny monster and a cool scene, and then the Green Wolf awakens, and you get to have a toy that comes with it. I'm trying to explain this thing, man. You guys, like, where we're at now, and then employ it to defeat the bad climate problems, you guys, seriously. And that's the way to talk to Earth, that's the way to defeat problems, and that's the way to operate in sunlight. All right, we talk to people. So this is very advanced quantum physics, right? So, I'll be sitting here kind of, molting, because I'm upset about not being able to reach my audience. But the fastest way for me to get there is to work on this Halloween episode with Trey Parker. And Trey's like, it's still going to be, a continued investigation about the wolf robot toy and this and this and this. But I can hear that the storm has ended, and so too has this immaculate performance. All right. Thank you guys so much. Oh, here we are. And I did want to talk more about the Ware buildings, and about like what is really going to be going on down here. Like, what's my behavior going to be inside of here? It's going to be like this, So I want to turn this area into a series of stages, so movie sets. So there's like fantastic stage here that we're building up, and then I go in there as the Green Wolf and I perform with other people who are in character, but what we're talking about politics. And we're talking about politics, and there's like some layers of VR, XR stuff going on, and like a centerpiece in the room. So pretty advanced ideas that do work. But it's sort of like I know that like with all of these different ideas working together, it does work. Um, it's just when you break it down and talk about it, it's hard for people to see uh, the visionary quest of what it would take to win an election in 12 months. I would need a location like this. I need the backdrop. I need the river. I need because like well, I do want to have the Green Wolf app, and you might think like, well, all you need then is a studio, and then you're talking to everyone through VR. The problem with that, the things that I lose by not having a location are things that would devastate me in the long run. And when we're filming on location and we have like like a red camera, like one of these, and we're getting this sort of high qual, 8K or 4K, probably 4K quality, because 8K just eats up drives, and um, yeah, anyway, we could render up if we needed to, but anyway, the point of the locations is that have some physicality, and I am talking about like doing this the sorts of live puppetry, and but whilst talking about politics. And that's actually kind of my extended plan from working in VR is like when other times that I'm talking to people, it's in like a studio set where and it's all fantastic with like unicorns and vampires and shit. So it really is next level, and it's about bringing people out of a stupor and bringing some like hope and magic into the government. So I hope that you guys can understand, and try to help me um, along my way. All right, I love you guys so much. Um, I don't know why I get so defeated. I feel like I did a really good job showing you guys these things. The imagination is all here. In fact, we could just cut this out and then like filter it into South Park animation size. And this is basically like a lamb angel, and it has little wings, but it's sort of being torn apart like an anatomy thing. And that can be like animated pretty well in South Park style. But we could, kind of just trace these lines and actually cut this out. So I was trying to show you these images as like actual set pieces. Like this would be like an actual reference to like a set piece that I'd like to do. I mean, this is like an actual reference to a set. So look, I end up feeling like that I'm not able to communicate the entire story that is behind what I'm hoping to achieve with you guys. I need you to produce me, Trey Parker. I need you to be the one who believes against everybody else. Like nothing is telling you to believe in me except for that we just live and we're in this earth garden and we live. And I'm just asking you to produce me, please. Please be the strength that I need on the side of a producer, and understand that, you know, understand that like I need you to be um a real angel. You're doing a lot of work by listening to me, but it would be an even more amazing and magical feat if you were to give me to the people. Give me, give me to the people. Like produce me and let the people have magic in their life. Thank you, South Park. Everything's perfect. Is full set. I love you, Matt and Trey. You guys are great. Safety and all that good stuff. You guys, I love you guys. It is good.